Today on the channel, we've seen the reviews on Heels and Faces Series 2. Now it's time to rank them and put them in order from my least favorite to my favorite.
And the spirit of Ultimate Warrior will run forever!
Kyle here, and welcome back to the channel for another set rankings video. And today on the channel, we're ranking Heels and Faces Series 2 from my least favorite to my favorite. And you guys familiar with the countdown videos, you know how we do these things. We got 6 figures here, 6 being my least favorite, all the way up to number 1. Number 1 being my favorite of the set, and Heels and Faces Series 2 finally here after a long wait. We talk about it all the time in the weekly toy news, other videos, things like that. All these companies, these non-Mattel, non-Hasbro, NECA, non-major companies, the independent companies, we understand they take a lot of time to get us from pre-order into our hands, but finally we're here with Heels and Faces, and Zombie Sailor, of course the brainchild behind Heels and Faces, has said in the future that gap is going to get shrunken down a little bit. We're seeing that with some of the other lines as well, grapplers and gimmicks. We're seeing a little bit shorter window. I'm hoping it gets shorter and shorter as we go, because we talk about it all the time on the channel. We don't like people sitting on our money for long periods of time, and it always is like, hey, it's an 8-month window, it's a year window, then all of a sudden it turns into 14, 16 months or longer. That is never fun, and you kind of forget about it, things like that. We all don't want people sitting on our money, or we shouldn't, unless we're gaining interest on our money. That's what we want to be doing here. But we have heard from Zombie Sailor Heels and Faces Series 3. Should be a shorter window from pre-order to actually in hand. I hope that continues. We do know right around the corner, Black Friday, we are going to have an Andre the Giant, the variant Black Strap edition. I guess Andre's over here. We're going to have that for shipping right away. So you order that on Black Friday, it'll be shipping out immediately. That's what we want to see. If Zombie Sailor and the Heels and Faces line can get to that or ship out within 2-3 weeks, maybe even a month, I think that's going to really take them to another level. And let's be honest, they're already at another level. They're the gold standard right now as far as retro companies. You got to kind of throw Mattel out of it because it's a little bit different. They're not independent, and they got a little bit more money behind them. I think we'd all agree on that. But as far as the independent retro makers, Zombie Sailor is the gold standard. You only get there one way, via quality. And we've had some quality issues here. I'm going to talk about them in this video. But still, at the end of the day, still fabulous figures. Every figure line, no matter what it is going to have some figures that are better than others, worse than others. It's always just part of the game. And you're always going to have some quality defects. It's just the name of the game as well. The goal of the manufacturer is to hopefully get rid of those, minimize those. But I think, unfortunately, no matter what you do, anything that's mass-produced, you're always going to have some bum ones every once in a while. So it is what it is a little bit right there. But let's dive in here. Let's do these 6 figures. As always, this is my list. Put your list in the comments down below. And we're going to start off at number 6 here. And the number 6 figure, I don't really got anything against the character. It just does not resonate with me like the other characters do. What am I talking about? We're talking about Nick Gage. One thing doesn't feel like the others. That's kind of Nick Gage in this Heels and Faces Series 2. I guess there's 2 ways of going about it. You want to get something that appeals to everybody, a little bit of everything. You get some ECW, classic WWF maybe, really classic territories WWF with Andre, international Bruiser, Brody, and America, and then Nick Gage, a modern day star in GCW. Just feels a little bit out of place here, and I would have liked to seen maybe Series 3 is all more current guys. I don't know. You could really argue the point either way, but at the end of the day, out of all these figures here, this is the one that felt the least special to me. I really like the pizza cutter. I like the light tube. I always love a good accessory. One little gripe, and it's a little gripe, I would have liked to have seen the hand over here have a hole in it so you could put one of the accessories here. I would have liked to be able to have both accessories on his hands, or give us an extra hand with him so we could hold both of those. That would have been nice, but it's not the end of the world at the end of the day. But that would be a minor gripe I have on this one. But a good-looking Nick Gage, looks like Nick Gage. Just for all things considered, going to be number 6 for me here. Now we go to the number 5 spot. And number 5 is an interesting one, and one I'm glad we got. I just think in a lot of people's lists, this might be at the very end. It is Kevin Sullivan, the devil himself, of course, Kevin Sullivan. Kevin Sullivan, not a lot of figures like we talked about in the unboxing. We never got the classic Florida Kevin Sullivan, and I hope Zombie Sailor makes this in his Elite style line. I would love to have that. I think that'd be a big one because really outside of Jakks Class Superstars, we've never had anything in the Mattel, the Jazzwares kind of scaling for Kevin Sullivan. I think that would be a good one to get this one. Just upsize it, get it to the Mattel style. I'd be here for it all day long. I'm here for this one all day long. It's just not as special as the rest of them at the end of the day. I can't believe how small the chain is on this one. It is good attention to detail with that right there. I love the glove padding stuff, the face paint, of course, the look on his face. A good representation of Kevin Sullivan, and a Kevin Sullivan not a lot of us know about unless we lived in the Florida, Georgia area back in the day, as not a lot of us have seen the Florida tapes, especially somebody like me living up in the Midwest. But the legend looms large on this one, and I think it definitely deserves a spot in the line. Definitely like the looks of it. Just going to come in at number 5 for me in this countdown. So now we're down to 4 left. Number 4, I'm going to King Kong Bundy. I love a big figure, but Bundy, of course, a Hall of Famer, a guy we all know, very easily recognizable. I think they got the scale perfect on this one here. Of course, we know he does have an Elite-style figure of Bundy coming out, which is very much wanted by a lot of people that missed out on his prior Legends one from the Mattel Elite line. It's just very, very plain Jane. There's not a lot you can do with King Kong Bundy. I love that 5-count hand on that one. I think that is a nice attention to detail. But really, at the end of the day, it's just a big, bald dude, and there's not a lot of bells and whistles you can put with that one to make him really stand out. But still a good figure. All these are really good figures at the end of the day. Just a few issues here and there, and we'll get into that in a little bit here. But coming in at number 4 for me is going to be King Kong Bundy. And now we're down to the final 3. Oh my gosh, the final 3 right here. And really, you can go any which way, but loose, like a young Clint Eastwood with this one here. But we're going to number 3, and I'm actually going to go Andre the Giant. I don't really have many gripes about this Andre. Maybe the skin tone color is just a little off. It's a hair off to me, but it's not the end of the world. It's still a really good version of Andre. I'm not a big fan of the Ron Rudat sketch. Shout out to Ron Rudat. Don't want to offend him. I didn't like the look of that sketch, but I think the figure came out better than the sketch was. Does that make any sense? I don't know. But a good-looking figure, like we talked about, Thanksgiving, we're going to have a black strap one, so if you want that, I will. Has a different head, different strap color. Got to pick that one up all day long. It's a good Andre, and Andre, it's tough to improve on things. Of course, the Hasbro Andre, one of the all-time great Hasbro figures, for me at least. So it's one that we needed, but didn't necessarily have to have. But I think it worked out pretty good here for Zombie Sailor, and a huge get, no doubt about it, in more ways than one. So Andre, a very good figure coming in at number 3. And we're down to the top 2 figures here. And the wild thing is here, this is an interesting thing to take note on here. Out of all these figures, these were the 2 figures I had quality issues with. I had some hand problems with this Raven. I actually had to heat up the hand and kind of mold it back in. It's just kind of some plastic issues on the right hand. And, you know, it just could be my figure. It could be a couple of figures. Like I said, anything mass-produced, you're going to have some issues, no doubt about it. But I had to work on that right hand a little bit to get that to work. So I did have some quality issues with that. Luckily, I did fix with the hairdryer. Bruiser Brody, the worst quality issues. One that just it gets away on all of us right now. Just grinds our gears, be it Mattel, Jazzwares, now Zombie Sailor, is staining, as we got staining from the fur jacket around the arms. Very, very difficult, very, very tough. Now, I'm not sure. I haven't heard from anybody else as I'm filming this. Am I the only one with staining? Who knows? But I have to think more of them than mine are going to be stained, and the longer it sits on that figure, it's going to be stained even more. So I'm basically leaving that fur coat on forever. Maybe I'll get another zombie, because we do know the fur coat one is limited edition for the first people that pre-ordered. So maybe I'll grab another one and have 2 Brodies in my collection. Not exactly sure what I'm going to do right there, but that tells you something when the 2 with the worst offenders of quality issues are at the top of the list. That tells you how good of a set this really is at the end of the day. Obviously, I would have liked those both not to have those issues, but it is what it is. There's no going back in the future and fixing that at this point. But now we're down to the final 2, and I guess this is where we're going to go. We're going to go right here with Raven at number 2 and Bruiser Brody at number 1. Now, Raven's an interesting one here. Out of all these characters, I probably, outside of Andre the Giant, maybe spent the most time with Raven throughout his career. Maybe even Raven more, actually. I probably saw more Raven matches as they happened than anybody else in this lineup here, just because Raven was in ECW, WCW, TNA, WWE, all over the place for many years, all the way back to the Flamingo days, of course. So Raven I've always been a very big fan of, always enjoyed his work, got to even meet him in person a couple of times. So not bad, and Raven, me being a big ECW fan, you know this is going to be pulling on the old heartstrings right here. So a very, very good looking Raven. I love the idea of the extra articulation on this one. It's definitely an interesting move. That's why this one ended up costing a little bit more, but you got the leg articulation. You can move that. You got the 2-arm articulation in there, like a young Texas Tornado Hasbro or something, or Tatanka. But definitely some differences with this Raven than what we see in traditional retro. It's going to be interesting if we get some of this going forward from Zombie Sailor. Will we get more articulation on some of these retros? We'll have to stay tuned to that. But then the soft goods leather jacket, the removable flannel. There's a lot of pieces to this one. It definitely feels upper class from all the retro style figures we've ever had. I guess you could say this is probably the most deluxe retro figure of all time, no doubt about it. Real zippers on it. Just a very, very good looking Raven figure. Just an absolute all-timer figure. There's no doubt about it. And possibly the greatest Raven figure of all time. I'm going to have to do a top 5 Raven figures one of these days on the channel. We'll see what happens there. But number 1 for me, Bruiser Brody. Pulling a lot of heartstrings here. I love Bruiser Brody. Obviously, I didn't get to really see any of his stuff even as a little kid. He wasn't in WCW, wasn't in WWE. Didn't get to see him. I didn't get World Class and things like that. But going back tape trading days in my early teens, Bruiser Brody was on all these tapes. So I saw a ton of Bruiser Brody stuff. I always remember saying, what if Bruiser Brody would have been in ECW? What would have that looked like? Just an all-time great. I've met his wife on numerous occasions. She is at the Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame every single year in Waterloo. Definitely recommend going to that every year. So Bruiser Brody, I always felt like I wasn't there for the heyday, but I saw a lot of it, and I enjoyed a lot of it. And anytime you get a Bruiser Brody figure, it does feel special, and that's how this one feels here. And I absolutely love what they did. They get the chain with him, and when I say they, I mean Zombie Sailor, Heels and Faces. They give the chain with this one. One of the best poses for any retro-style figure going back to the Hasbro is this body style. Always great for playability. The Wild Man hair, the Wild Man beard, the blade scars, the face. It looks like Bruiser Brody sitting here shrunk down to a small retro figure. I mean, it really feels that way. It looks that way. Just an absolute amazing piece of art right here. Of course, like I talked about, the staining really hurts it, but man, it doesn't hurt it so much that it brings it down in the line for me. I absolutely love this figure. I'm going to leave this jacket, the fur vest on it. It will cover the staining, so kind of out of sight, out of mind. And not giving any excuses. That should not happen to our action figures that we wait a very long time for, that we pay our good money for. We shouldn't have to do that kind of smoke and mirrors hiding on things. But it still is an amazing figure, and it earns the top spot in this top 6 Zombie Sailor Heels and Faces Series 2 figures. Just an all-time set here. A very good set. Strongly recommended. If you're into retros, this is a set you're going to want in your collection. I'm very excited where the future holds. If they can close those gaps down, they are going to continue to rise to the next level, and maybe they won't be an independent toy company anymore. Maybe they'll be a part of the big boys. Maybe they will be the big boy. We'll see what happens in the future. But I'm very excited for where this line is going. And next up, we got Bastion Booger. As I'm filming this right now, old Mike Shaw himself, I just got shipping notice for him. So he should be coming in the next week or so. We will unbox him on the channel, so stay tuned for that in the near future there. So there it is, Heels and Faces Series 2. What are your thoughts? What's your list look like? What's your lineup look like? Let me know in the comments down below. And of course, don't forget to like this video. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Turn on the old notification bell, as we got videos every single day. And then some. We got even more content for you on the Patreon, including early access to both YouTube channels' videos. And your best way to support the channel is, of course, via the Patreon. You can also support the channel at ProWrestlingTees.com. Search Kyle Peterson. And don't forget social media. SirPaul64 on the X. _Kyle_Peterson on Threads and on Instagram. So for Zombie Sailors Heels and Faces Series 2, I'm Kyle. See you guys all real soon.